It didn't take long after Squid Game Season 2 dropped for Korean media to start rolling out wave after wave of negative articles aimed squarely at T.O.P, who plays Thanos in the series. Fans couldn't help but notice the pattern, with many speculating that the sudden surge of criticism was part of a coordinated effort to drag his name through the mud. And honestly, the evidence backing up this theory felt, at least to them, hard to ignore. For those who might not be entirely familiar with why T.O.P's name still stirs up controversy, let's rewind a little to 2017, when the events that shaped his long break from the spotlight began. That year, he kicked off his mandatory military service as a conscripted police officer, with everything set to wrap up smoothly by 2018. But in May of that year, things took a dramatic turn when news broke that T.O.P would be prosecuted for using an illegal substance. As a result, he was pulled from his role in the police force, awaiting the outcome of his case while being reassigned to another department. Facing intense public scrutiny, T.O.P responded with a handwritten apology, saying, "I would like to sincerely apologize for causing great disappointment and disturbance with a huge wrongdoing. I deserve to be punished. I will meditate and reflect on my mistake again and again. I will never make such an irresponsible mistake again." But his words did little to calm the backlash. The sheer volume of hate comments he received from Korean netizens was staggering, with some racking up thousands of likes. The negativity became so overwhelming that fans started to worry about his mental health. One particular moment stood out during this time. A photo of T.O.P surfaced, showing him in a police uniform with a faint smile on his face. For critics, that smile was all the fuel they needed to attack him further, accusing him of being unrepentant and indifferent. But for his supporters, it looked more like the expression of someone who was barely holding it together. Tragically, their concerns turned out to be justified. Just days after issuing his apology, T.O.P was found unconscious in the police barracks after what appeared to be an overdose of anti-anxiety medication. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. An investigation later revealed that T.O.P had been regularly using sedatives for a while, but that day he'd taken a dose far higher than prescribed. Fortunately, by June 8, 2017, his mother confirmed that he'd regained consciousness and was stable. However, the ordeal didn't end there. On June 29th, during his first trial, T.O.P admitted to smoking illegally on 4 separate occasions and received a sentence of 2 years probation. The trial also revealed his connection to Han So-hee, a controversial figure and his ex-girlfriend, with whom he'd engaged in illegal activity on at least 3 occasions. Following a disciplinary review, authorities decided to reassign T.O.P, removing him from his police duties and transferring him to public service work instead. He resumed his mandatory service as a public service worker in January 2018 and completed it by July 2019. While the scandal painted T.O.P in an unforgiving light, it also raised bigger questions about his mental health and what had led to his reliance on anti-anxiety medication. Years later, when the incident was brought up again, fans pointed to T.O.P's candid interviews, where he opened up about the heavy toll of being an idol. In a 2022 conversation with Prestige Online, T.O.P shared, "Since I was young, I've suffered from depression. I was born to be sad. I've felt extra sensitive compared to other kids since I was young." Reflecting on his 2017 controversy, he described it as not just a career low, but the worst moment of his life. He admitted that the fallout left him deeply shaken, to the point where he even attempted taking his life. T.O.P didn't shy away from discussing the bigger issue either. He spoke about how mental health struggles are often brushed under the rug in South Korea, where talking openly about such topics remains taboo. He also pointed out the country's alarmingly high rates of self-inflicted harm, shedding light on a societal problem that often goes ignored. Now, as T.O.P made his long-awaited return to the screen after years away, it's safe to say that many people didn't roll out the red carpet. His casting in Squid Game 2 as Player 230, a retired rapper caught up in the fallout of a crypto scam, sparked a backlash almost immediately after it was announced on June 28, 2024. While some fans were thrilled about his comeback, others saw his character's traits, particularly his impulsive tendencies and substance use, as uncomfortably close to T.O.P's real-life controversies. This connection became a focal point for critics, fueling arguments that his past scandals made him an inappropriate choice for the role. Not long after behind-the-scenes photos of the cast surfaced, Korean netizens flooded social media with comments expressing their disapproval. One person even going as far as to call T.O.P's a criminal, saying, "I'm not watching a criminal is appearing in it shamelessly," reflecting the growing resentment toward his involvement. The backlash went extremely crazy, growing out enough to inspire calls for a boycott, with critics questioning why someone with such a history was being featured in such a high-profile project. Faced with mounting criticism, Squid Game 2 director Hwang Dong-hyuk decided to publicly address the controversy. In an interview, he defended T.O.P's casting and explained that the decision wasn't made lightly. Referring to the actor by his Korean name, Choi Seung-hyun, Hwang acknowledged the swirling rumors about the character and praised T.O.P's courage in taking on such a complex, polarizing role. "We believed his skills and experiences made him uniquely suited for this part," the director said. "It was a risk, but one we felt confident would pay off once people saw the final result." Hwang's comments reassured some fans, but the backlash didn't simmer down entirely. When Squid Game 2 premiered on December 26, 2024, the conversation around T.O.P's performance only intensified. While his loyal fans were overjoyed to see him acting again after nearly a decade, critics and viewers were far less forgiving. Korean netizens were honestly losing it over this, firing off one sharp criticism after another at the Squid Game director for casting T.O.P. The comments were pretty intense, ranging from stuff like, "This is not overseas. We need to shut his mouth first. LOL. Am I living in a different Korea from he is? Excuse me? The director seems like a crazy bastard lol. Fuck, is he joking?" As reviews poured in, the response to T.O.P's portrayal of Player 230 was also overwhelmingly harsh. Major Korean outlets didn't hold back as well, attacking T.O.P non-stop. Even NBC seems to be taking it even further by calling T.O.P a druggie and writing an inflammatory report about T.O.P. The headline reads, "Druggie rapper T.O.P's bad acting has made Squid Game 2 unbearable to watch," and even claiming that his presence in the series diminished the overall quality. They argued that the role should have gone to a talented rookie instead, someone who could breathe life into the character without the baggage of past scandals. Meanwhile, Joy News questioned the director's decision to stick with T.O.P, hinting that his casting might have been more about stirring up buzz than anything else. Joy Immersed even asked, did the creators genuinely believe that by saying, "We vetted him and we deemed him suitable," the audiences would simply blindly accept and move on? Or did they assume that because the Squid Game series targets a global audience, the disappointment from Korean viewers could be ignored, going on to criticize what they saw as a disregard for the Korean audience's perspective? The idea that the show's international popularity could outweigh local backlash rubbed many netizens the wrong way. In online forums, some even speculated that T.O.P's casting might have been influenced by his connections, pointing out his relationships with key members of the Squid Game cast and creative team. Adding fuel to the fire, skeptics highlighted T.O.P's complicated history with his own fans, including his public announcement that he wouldn't be returning to Korea, and the fact that he hadn't acted in nearly a decade. For many, his inclusion in one of Korea's most globally recognized productions felt baffling. "It's hard to believe this wasn't a personal favor," one commenter wrote, summing up the doubts that continued to overshadow T.O.P's controversial comeback. So here's the thing. What started as a little hiccup in Squid Game 2's promotional rollout somehow spiraled into a much larger mess when fans began noticing that T.O.P was strangely left out. He wasn't showing up in interviews, his face was missing from promos, and he skipped the big production event entirely. Naturally, this caught people's attention. Then came the international fans who were quick to step in and defend him. They didn't hold back when praising his performance, calling it one of the only good things in an otherwise slow and unimpressive season. One fan even joked, "Did we all watch the same show? He brought life to a season that felt so dull." Another tweets, "They take that stuff very seriously over there. Fuss. Let the man get high if he wants to. Criminal record. Korea is backwards." Another one said, "The whole reason I watched Squid Game is because of T.O.P. I loved his acting so much. Please don't apologize for your acting. I genuinely don't understand why Thanos is hated so much. He was there to have a good time." But here's where it gets even stickier. People pointed out a pretty obvious gap in how Korean media and international platforms were reacting to T.O.P. role. Apparently, Netflix's global accounts were hyping up his portrayal of Thanos with tons of clips and posts, while Netflix Korea didn't give him any attention at all. This made people take a closer look, leading some to agree with director Hwang Dong-hyuk's earlier statement about how over-the-top, flashy characters tend to appeal more to international viewers. But on the flip side, Korean audiences lean toward characters who feel more realistic and grounded. What really set people off, though, was the backlash against T.O.P., which many fans saw as unfairly targeted. They brought up the fact that other cast members had histories tied to serious allegations, yet the criticism directed at T.O.P., who was primarily facing backlash over past drug-related controversies, seemed outsized. For example, Lee Jung-jae, the lead actor, has multiple DUI and harassment allegations under his name, while Lee was accused of sexual assault by a 33-year-old friend in 2016, though charges were dropped. Not to mention, Oh Young-soo faced legal trouble tied to harassment, and Song Young-chang, who played Player 100, was convicted of paying $150 for Sewell R course with a 16-year-old girl twice despite being married. Fans couldn't help but ask why T.O.P. was singled out while these far more serious issues went almost unnoticed. What made it even harder for some some fans to believe the criticism was fair was the timing. Hate articles started popping up within just 5 minutes of the season dropping, even though T.O.P's character didn't show up until episode 3. That got fans questioning whether these critics had actually seen his performance or if this was part of an organized hate campaign. To add to the chaos, press screenings held before the official release made reporters sign strict non-disclosure agreements. Phones were confiscated too, so only those at the screenings would have seen the episodes ahead of time. Director Hwang eventually felt the need to step in and directly address everything going on. He spoke in an interview about how casting T.O.P's character had been complicated. They were looking for someone who could convincingly play a troubled rapper, tied to issues like addiction and societal judgment. While they went through a long list of auditions, T.O.P.'s name eventually came up, though Hwang admitted he hesitated because T.O.P. had been on a long break from acting. After some back and forth and auditions, they agreed T.O.P. was the right person for the part. But Hwang also confessed he didn't expect the backlash to reach this level. It'd been 6 to 7 years since the scandal. "I thought enough time had passed for people to move on," he said, "but clearly it's more complicated than I realized." The director added that, for him, the casting decision wasn't just about the role. It was also a chance to create something meaningful. Hwang explained he wanted to give T.O.P. an opportunity to show if he could change the public's perception of him, saying, "I hope the work could help people decide if he deserved a second chance." Ultimately, though, he left it in the public's hands to decide. Whether or not audiences and critics will accept T.O.P. in the long run remains to be seen.